What we're going to be doing right now is a couple more examples of the quadratic formula, using the quadratic formula to solve equations. And so here's a reminder of the quadratic formula. Remember, we had sang it to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel. So x equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. And we also talked about the discriminant. Remember that these are used to solve ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, quadratic equations in standard form. The discriminant is the stuff under the radical. So the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. And we had talked about the three possibilities for the discriminant. The discriminant can be positive, the discriminant can be 0, or the discriminant can be negative. When the discriminant was positive, that gave us two distinct real solutions. When the discriminant was 0, that gave us one repeated real solution. And when the discriminant was negative, that gave us two complex conjugate solutions. So what we're going to be working on next is two examples that have a little bit different outcomes than what we started with the first time. So our first problem is 7x squared equals 3. Remember, we need to start out in standard form, so we'll go ahead and subtract the 3 to the other side, so it's equals 0. So we have 7x squared minus 3 equals 0. Keep in mind that for the quadratic formula, we just need the values of a, b, and c. So in this equation, the value of a is 7. The value of b, we'll talk about in a second. And the value of c is negative 3, because c is the constant term, or the term with no variable. The b coefficient is the one in front of the x term. And since there is no x in this equation, the value of b is 0. So we can still use the quadratic formula. We just need to remember that b is 0 for this problem. So we'll go x equals opposite b. Since b is 0, the opposite of 0 is still 0. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, well, 0 squared is 0, minus 4 times a times c, and then divided by 2a. So we're going to work through the discriminant, simplifying that. So we have 0 plus or minus. We have negative 4 times 7, which is negative 28. And then negative 28 times negative 3 happens to be positive 84. So we really have 0 plus 84 in the discriminant. So I'll just simplify that to 84, and then all divided by 14. We need to break down that 84. 84 could be 2 times 42. 42 is 6 times 7. 6 is 2 times 3, and then times 7. So remember, we bring out pairs, so that will come out and be a 2, and this will stay in and be 3 times 7, which is 21. So this simplifies to, it would be 0 plus or minus, but the 0 doesn't change the value, so it's really just plus or minus 2 square roots of 21 over 14. Then we want to see what we can simplify. I can tell the 2 and the 14 are both even, so I'm going to divide those each by 2. So x will equal plus or minus, it would be a 1, but we don't write it, so plus or minus square root of 21 over 14 divided by 2 is 7. Keep in mind, we cannot simplify the 21 with the 7 because the 21 is inside the radical and the 7 is outside the radical. So this is our answer, and we might make a note does not simplify. Because you cannot simplify numbers inside the radical with numbers outside the radical. Okay, how about this one over here? 3x squared minus 10x equals negative 3. You may have already moved that negative 3 over. If you did, great job. So we'll have 3x squared minus 10x plus 3 equals 0. And then the value of a is 3, the value of b is negative 10, and the value of c is 3. Let's go ahead and use our quadratic formula. So x equals the opposite of b. Opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. So 10 plus or minus the square root of b squared. Remember, b squared is always positive. So when I take negative 10 squared, that is 100 minus 4 times a times c, and then divided by 2a. Let's work on simplifying inside this radical. I'm going to have 4 times 3, which is 12, or negative 12, since I have negative 4 times 3. So negative 12, and then negative 12 times 3 is negative 36. So I really have 100 minus 36 inside my discriminant. So x equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 minus 36 is 64, and that's all divided by 6. Square root of 64 simplifies easily, so we get 10 plus or minus 8 all over 6. Now at this point we can go ahead and simplify each of those numbers because 10, 8, and 6 are all even. So I could rewrite this as 5 plus or minus 4 all over 3. That will make the next step a little bit shorter. The next step is going to be to break this into the two different problems. So x will equal 5 plus 4 over 3, or x will equal 5 minus 4 over 3. When we do the 5 plus 4, we get 9 over 3, which simplifies to 3. And when we do the 5 minus 4, we get 1 over 3, and that doesn't simplify. So my two solutions are 3 and 1/3.